these 4 murders over a 10-day period is one of the worst killing sprees in the history of this state.
We're in Omaha, Nebraska, for the sentencing hearing for Nico Jenkins. The 26-year-old was arrested after reportedly going on a 10-day crime spree that left 4 people dead in 3 separate attacks in the city of Omaha. A notorious criminal figure in Omaha, detectives were not shy about letting Jenkins know how they had him nailed for the alleged crimes.
Do you not realize I got Nico Jenkins? Do you not realize that? I got Nico Jenkins. I got you.
What do you mean you got me?
I got your DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car.
Sir.
I got the weapon. I got Nico Jenkins.
Detectives got something else, too.
And that's why y'all don't even understand how hard this is for me right now. Because I'm betraying my family. Do y'all understand it? I'm literally betraying my family and my bloodline.
You all right?
You all right, man?
Jenkins claims he recruited numerous family members to help carry out the crimes. Additional arrests that included his sister, uncle, cousin, even his mother. Investigators say the deadly family affair began when Jenkins enlisted his sister and female cousin to lure 2 men into a park where they robbed them, and Jenkins shot both in the head. Jenkins' uncle was allegedly involved in a carjacking with his nephew that resulted in another murder. And Jenkins' mother picked up charges for accessory to murder for allegedly concealing evidence and purchasing the ammunition used in the murders. Jenkins, who was recently arrested for making terroristic threats, would ultimately confess to the 4 murders during that police interview.
I'm gonna give you from A to Z. This is not no goose chase. This is the real deal right here.
He later pleaded no contest to 4 counts of first-degree murder and multiple weapons charges and faced either life without parole or the death penalty. Behind bars and awaiting sentencing, Nico Jenkins continued to grab media attention when he used a razor to mutilate his face and attempted to carve the word Satan into his forehead. Now at sentencing, Nico Jenkins arrives in the courtroom with new facial tattoos and visible razor scars on his face. After Jenkins waived his right to a jury trial, a 3-judge panel makes a ruling on Jenkins' sentence at this bench trial.
The defendant's commission of these 4 murders over a 10-day period is one of the worst killing sprees in the history of this state. Each one of these murders was a deliberate and planned act. The victims were pre-selected and the murders were purposeful.
And finally, judgment arrives for Nico Jenkins.
This panel finds that the death penalty is appropriate, should be, and is hereby given for each of the 4 murders by the defendant.
An additional 450 years was also tacked onto his sentence, the result of numerous weapons charges. Nico Jenkins would later appeal his death sentence, but it was rejected by the Nebraska Supreme Court. As for the family members he involved in the crimes, his sister Erica Jenkins was sentenced to life in prison for her involvement in the murders. Cousin Christine Bordeaux, who turned state's evidence and testified against her family, was given 20 years. Uncle Warren Levering received 40 years, and his mother, Lori Jenkins, was given 2 years for accessory charges.
Please have mercy on Christine and I so we can still have a chance to grow old together as husband and wife.
Next, we head to Union, South Carolina, for the sentencing of Jeremy and Christine Moody, who are all smiles as they stand before the judge. No, they are not exchanging vows. They're already married. They're also neo-Nazis who were found guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of Charles Parker and his wife Gretchen. The Moodys targeted Parker, who they did not know, after seeing his address in a sex offender state registry. The couple also believed God wanted them to eliminate all sex offenders. Surveillance footage from the Parker home helped police locate the killers, as did Jeremy's tattoos, including skinhead written across his neck, white power atop his head. When the couple were questioned, they didn't deny their guilt. In fact, they both not only confessed, They told authorities they planned to kill more sex offenders. The Moody's pleaded guilty to murder, kidnapping, and burglary, and are in court asking Judge Lee Alford for mercy, as well as the minimum sentence of 30 years in prison.
As charged. Your Honor, not a day goes by that I don't regret what's happened. And I know that what I've done is a sin, and I believe that God has forgiven me of it. Please have mercy on Christine and I so we can still have a chance to grow old together as husband and wife.
Next, it was Christine Moody's chance to plead for forgiveness.
The Bible clearly states, "Thou shalt not kill." I'm sorry I broke that commandment, but I truly believe God has forgiven Jeremy and I. I hope you will too. Your Honor, please see it fit that Jeremy and I are sentenced to the same sentence of 30 years. Never kissing my husband or feeling his touch again is my very worst nightmare. Please give us a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
After taking in their words of remorse and request to remain together, it's now all up to Judge Alford.
Brutally killed these two people. They had nothing, no way to defend themselves or anything else. And I tell you that I believe that if these two were to get out of jail, I would be concerned that they would do exactly the same thing to him. I don't have any question about it. I think it's a case that justice demands a life sentence.
After hearing their sentences, the murderous couple share a final kiss before they're separated. But as they exit the court, whatever remorse they tried to convey has quickly disappeared.
Pervert lady. That's what child molesters get.
Outside the courthouse, the Moody's continue to express their true feelings.
I think Jeremy and I would have done it again if given the opportunity.
Do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets. Killing that pedophile was the best day of my life.
What about not being able to see Jeremy?
Jeremy and I have a love that will withstand this.
What about what you said in court about repenting? Is that not true then?
No, it's not true. My lawyer made me say it.
Do you have anything to say to the victim's family?
May they die also.
Jeremy and Christine Moody were both sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Next, we're in Utica, New York for the sentencing of 22-year-old Brandon Clark. 2 years earlier, Clark was charged with second-degree murder for the brutal killing of 17-year-old Bianca Devins. After meeting on the internet, Clark and Devins began a friendship and hung out together for several months before traveling to New York City to see a concert. But during the show, Clark allegedly became angry after witnessing Devins kiss another man. After driving back, Clark parked on a dead-end street and pulled out his cell phone.
He set up his cell phone on the dashboard of his car, and he recorded the actual crime.
The disturbing video showed Clark using a knife to kill Bianca Devins inside his car.
And when we all saw that here in this court, defense counsel, police, we saw her fight desperately for her life. And Your Honor, there was no way that she could have seen it coming, and there was certainly no way that she could overcome the likes of Brandon Clark. And then we watched as he blamed her. Bianca, you made me do this. Well, she didn't. The blame is with you.
Following her murder, Clark took graphic photos of Devins' body and posted them online. He later called 911 to report the murder and his impending suicide.
What are you wearing?
It doesn't matter. I'm going to be dead.
Okay, well, I just want to talk to you, okay?
Yeah, I know you want to. I know how your job works. You have to keep me on the line, but it's not happening, okay?
When police arrived, Clark cut his own neck in front of them and was rushed to the hospital. 7 months after the crime, he would ultimately plead guilty to second-degree murder. The maximum punishment would allow Clark to see a parole board after 25 years, but he could remain in prison for life. Now at sentencing, members of Bianca's family confront her killer.
I am Olivia Devins. I am Bianca Devins' sister.
Last year, I used to have social media, and one day I opened up my Instagram just as any 16-year-old does, except I was traumatized. Many random people set their profile pictures as my sister's death photo and went on my page knowing I would without a doubt see it. I am now 17 years old. My life has just begun, but this is when Bianca's was taken.
My entire adult life, I have been Bianca's mom. Without her, I don't know who I am. Brandon Clark has shown that he has no regard for human life. He stole my daughter's life from her and his family for his own selfish reasons that I will never understand. I am haunted every day by the images of my precious daughter being murdered.
Finally, Bianca's grandfather addresses her killer.
I believe that due to the cruelty and callousness of your actions, you, Brandon, should serve the rest of your natural life in prison. This sentence will serve as justice for Bianca.
Following the family's emotional pleas, Brandon Clark is walked within feet of Bianca's loved ones and addresses the court.
For almost 2 years now, I've sat in my cell and I've wondered what I'm going to say when it finally comes time for me to speak to the people that I've hurt. And it's never been enough. It's never been adequate. I felt to really convey my emotions and to apologize. How do you meaningfully apologize for doing something so horrible and so irreversible? And I hate myself for what I did to her. I don't know why. I don't understand how I could do something like that. I don't even know who I was that day, and it disgusts me.
Clark's words seem to have little impact on Judge Michael Dwyer, who then delivers the maximum allowable sentence.
You will be sentenced to an indeterminate sentence of imprisonment. It shall have a minimum term of 25 years and a maximum term of life imprisonment.
Brandon Clark will not be eligible for parole until 2046. We head to Manchester, Iowa for the trial of hog farmer Todd Mullis. He's been charged with first-degree murder for allegedly killing his wife of 14 years. In November 2018, Amy Mullis was found face down in a shed on their farm with a corn rake sticking out of her back. Her husband called 911, claiming Amy must have fallen onto the rake. Mullis put Amy in his truck and rushed to the hospital. While driving, he stayed on the line with paramedics, who instructed Mullis to pull over and begin CPR.
I grabbed her and threw her in the truck. Okay, you're headed to the hospital and she's in your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, sir, what happened that she's not conscious or breathing?
She fell on a fork. I had to put a fork on her.
Amy Lynn died at the hospital, but it didn't take long for police to suspect foul play. For starters, Mullis had 6 stab wounds in her back, yet the corn rake had only 4 tines. It's the steel points at the end of the fork. The couple, who had 3 children together, also had marital problems over Amy's infidelity. And there were rumors about a possible divorce, which could result in Todd losing half the farm. Mullis was charged with murder, but pleaded not guilty.
Please be seated, everyone.
At the trial, Mullis took the stand, as prosecutor Maureen Hughes questions him specifically about his effort to save Amy's life.
Where is it that you perform the CPR on Amy?
I started in the truck.
And you're holding onto that phone and you're doing the chest compressions.
I had my shoulder holding my phone against my ear.
So at that point, the only people in the car are you and Amy, right?
Yes.
And at this point, you don't at all think that Amy's cheating on you.
No.
When you're actually there giving her CPR and you're giving those chest compressions, all you're thinking about is trying to save her life.
Yes.
At this point, the prosecution plays an excerpt from Mullis's conversation with paramedics, zeroing in on a faint whisper delivered from the defendant's very own mouth.
No, John, did you just hear that whisper at the end of that?
Yes.
And what did you whisper?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again.
The prosecutor cues it up again.
Todd, do you whisper cheating right there?
No.
So you don't remember what you whispered?
No.
But Prosecutor Hughes isn't done. She's got one more questionable comment to run by Mullis.
Okay, I'm gonna play another clip for you. Do you know what you whispered there?
No.
Did you hear that?
The prosecutor cues up the second clip one more time for Mullis and the jury.
Just try to listen really closely. I just want to know if you remember what you said. Right there, do you say go to hell cheating?
No.
So you don't hear that?
No.
You didn't hear at 6:53 cheating? You didn't hear that?
I didn't hear that word.
And it's right at that, after you hear a ping, you don't hear go to hell cheating.
No.
Turns out some members of the jury heard what was suggested by the prosecution, but others did not. Ultimately, it wouldn't matter. Additional evidence presented by the prosecution, including a history of Google searches on Mullis's iPad of phrases including killing unfaithful women, were enough to seal his fate. After 6.5 hours, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty. Mullis is sentenced to life in prison, where he'll have no chance at parole. We're in Seattle, Washington, for the sentencing of convicted killer Joseph McEnroe. The 36-year-old was found guilty of brutally murdering 6 members of his girlfriend's family on Christmas Eve. McEnroe and the girlfriend opened fire on her parents, later waited for her brother to arrive, then shot and killed him, his wife, and their 2 young children. Michelle Anderson, the girlfriend and alleged mastermind of the gruesome plot, was said to have convinced McEnroe into committing the murders. The motive? Her brother allegedly owed her money. After a more than 2-month trial in which McEnroe wasn't heard from, prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. But now, in this penalty phase, McEnroe takes the stand for the first time to plead his case for a lesser sentence.
What did you do to try to stop this, Joe?
I can't even say now. I tried everything that I could.
Well, why not just walk out the door and then leave?
I couldn't do that.
McEnroe remains emotionless, even as he describes exactly how he murdered one of the victims.
Then she wasn't moving anymore, and so I went over by where she was, and I told her that I was sorry, and I shot her in the head.
But in a split second, something changes. McEnroe breaks down as he describes what he saw as he cleaned up part of the crime scene.
See the emptiness where she should be. So...
But what came next for McEnroe was perhaps the best indicator of just how divorced from reality he'd become.
At least nobody suffered. The way that it is, at least nobody suffered.
Joseph McEnroe and Michelle Anderson would each be sentenced to 6 life terms in prison for the murders of Anderson's family members.